Hello.
So what is going on, guys? It's Triple G here, back with another Outriders video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about some notes, or a blog as they have called it, from the Outriders developers, and they are talking about pretty much how to stay alive, how the mechanics in the game work. We're just going to break that down so everybody understands it, because it's actually pretty critical to how, if you haven't already pushed up to CT15, that you will now be able to do it. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week, and otherwise, let's get straight into this video. So here we have the developers' insights damage control document, and they have released this on multiple different social platforms. And to be honest with you, there is a lot of detail in here. Now we're just going to break down the raw mechanics of it. Now they go into what makes up how to stay alive in Outriders, and they break it down into core mechanics and then hidden mechanics. Now the core mechanics are pretty simple. Resistance gives you protection from actual anomaly damage, so non-physical attacks, and armor gives you protection from physical damage. So as you set your characters up now, you need to start to be thinking about, what expedition am I going for? Am I going to get lots of physical melee attacks from enemies, or am I going to get lots of anomaly damage from enemies? And also thinking about the boss that you fight at the end, because the boss is always the same. So are they primarily, physical, or primarily anomaly damage? So that kind of goes into the normal stuff. And then they talk about shields. Obviously, shields here, they block both types of damage, be that anomaly damage or resistance, but they do work off your resistance and your physical based values. So one to note there. Then they talk about these Phoenix mechanics. Now these are optional mechanics that allow the player to ignore death the first time it happens, and this can be applied through either a mod or your skill tree. The Devastator and the Pyromancer have the abilities in order to allow you to actually revive, not actually die. And they go into some details in here. They also talk about weakness, what that does to an enemy. It takes 33% of their damage away. And they also talk about vulnerability, which was nerfed. It's now 15%. The enemies will take 15% more damage. Now, the really interesting part is this section here, which is the hidden mechanics and the other survivability mechanics. Now, before this document, we would call it health gate. From what I'm familiar with, we knew that there was a health gate in the game, but it was pretty inconsistent, or at least we thought it was inconsistent. And now, thanks to this document, we kind of know why we're seeing some inconsistencies. And the real reason for it is this kind of bullet point here, which is the mechanics actually have their own internal cooldowns, and there is a primary and a secondary death prevention which have their own cooldowns. So this is why, without knowing the specifics of it, actually why we didn't know what it was that was killing us at times. But now that we have an understanding of these, this is really where you're going to understand where the weaknesses in your builds are. So for example here, primary death prevention prevents you from dropping below 30% health the first time that happens to you in an expedition. Secondary death prevention will stop you from dropping below 10% the first time it happens in an expedition, or you're net on cooldown. So the first time you go drop down to about 30%, you then have to be another 120 seconds into your expedition before primary death prevention comes back. Where it starts to get complicated is spike damage protection. Now, if a single hit takes more than 65% of a player's health, it's limited to 65%, preventing you from getting one shot, which is kind of this damage mitigation thing that we saw before. However, this 65% is increased to 84% when on tier 15. Now, I know this is getting complicated, but bear with me. This doesn't actually apply if death primary prevention happens. So think about this logically. So it says here that we can get one shot for up to 85%, let's say, on tier 15. But if we're in primary death prevention and we're not on cooldown, that's going to limit it to 70% anyway. So all in all, what you're going to need to be thinking about here is how your expedition has gone so far. So when you're going into the battles, against the brood mothers, maybe on the Outriders at the end of the battle, when was the last time you went really, really low on health? Can you afford to push in there These are type of things. So I think in summary, this is actually really good for a player that pays attention. Now, if you're a devastator and you do like to get up close and personal, you'll know the last time that you went and got yourself into trouble, and you'll have a feel for that cooldown. Sometimes you won't notice it if you're healing like yourself back up to 100% quite often, but I think this is really, really important, and will help players understand when they can push and when they can't. Guys, that is it for today's video. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week, and otherwise I'll catch you on the flip.